to connect with him since September. Actually, I've known him for a very long time, involved with my folks. A lot of you know him as well, and he really is, talk about servant leader, he really kind of gets behind everybody and inspires people to get going in some cases, which is fantastic. And so I really admire you, and I look forward to what you have to share with us today. So,
I'll start off with a cough. How does that sound?
We don't want to catch that.
You don't want to catch that?
That's not the kind of reason we
You don't want to follow that leader, right, David?
That's right.
I'll try to project this morning, but if I fade, John Huck will do something like this, right, to up the volume. So
I'll help with the hearing impaired.
Hearing impaired. Thank you. Thank you, John. I'm so glad you spell your name the right way, too. J-O-N.
Thank you.
Yes. We don't have any other J-O-H answer this morning, do we? You're not offended. I am about 50%. I've been kind of in bed Monday through Thursday. I feel a little bit better today, and I'm a whole lot better than Glenn Reck. Glenn has got pneumonia. He's on 3 different meds. Was he close to going to the hospital, Michael? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably should have.
What kept him from going to the hospital? Maybe that's the next
Pride.
question. You want to think about that, or?
He doesn't like those.
John, do you want to add to that?
I called him the other day to see if he would be ready for this gig this morning.
Yeah.
And he says, Johnny, I think I'm on my deathbed. And I said, I'd like to come over and go through some of your stuff then before this goes to probate court. I think that's what started his revival.
By the way, I got through about 10 minutes of what you did in January. It was my good initial comic relief that I needed in the midst of sickness. So I'm laughing at your opening lines you did with the pen and everything. But then I'm laughing, and then I'm coughing. So I thought, I better not listen to any more of this. So anyway, I am filling in, and what I'd also say is that old teachers never die. They just drag out an old lecture. And that is exactly what I did. I gave this 3 times to universities in India about a year and a half ago or so. And I thought, I don't have the energy to create something new. And it really doesn't matter if we even get through all of this today, because it's going to be a conversation. So we'll just see how far we get. This lady right here is one of the leaders that I follow and have been following for over 36 years, my wife, Pat. Why do we look so red, Sweetie? Did you come on the projector?
Hawaii.
Yeah, it was summer, and the sun shined one day.
So hurry up, take a picture when the sun's out, right? Yeah. Pat and I have been married for 36 years, and I do follow her leadership on so many things and see her modeling the way of Jesus' leadership. So we have 3 grown daughters. We have 8 grandkids. Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. You can tell, right? Let's see if I can find it. There are the 8 grandkids. Ages 3 months. Is Luke 3 months? 3 months up to 9 years old. We are absolutely having a blast in the grandkid years, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
It is really fun. An old standard phrase, you should have had grandchildren first. I'm not sure I buy that, but it's a great phrase. All of our kids live around here, and we're really having fun hanging out together. I've been on 3 careers. I taught school for about 12 years in the public school system. I felt like God called me to teach. I loved to teach. I thoroughly enjoyed working mostly with 3rd graders. I had some good years with 6th graders, but there were a few dark years also. I didn't handle hormones very well sometimes when they were going off during the teenage years. So.
And then God gave you 3 daughters.
And then God gave me 3 daughters. Yes. And it's interesting. This is a rabbit trail. I think the Lord did that because He knew I needed to become a relational person, not just a contemplative thinker. Because I'm content. John Halk and I could probably not talk and just read books the rest of our lives. True?
Yes.
Yeah, reader. Yeah. So you could put me in a corner with a stack of books, I'd probably be happy. And God said, no, that's not going to work. It's about relationships. And so God gave me 4 wonderful women to develop the relational end of who I am. After teaching for 12 years, I began to realize that God had another next step in the process. I ended up going on staff with the Navigators for the last 25 years, and that career just ended December 31st. And so I am in a big transition. It's been a really wonderful 25 years with the Navigators, working with Gary, other Navigator staff around Seattle. But over the last 2 years, God began to birth something new, and the new became the International School of Entrepreneurial Leadership. So I work with Jim Johnson. Anybody else here? Who am I missing? David. David is on our staff. Glenn Rep is also working with, I call it ISOL, International School of Entrepreneurial Leadership. So we are all in the midst of good career change, right, David?
You got that right.
This is our first batch of students. They use the word batch over there, not group. It's the Malwa Institute for Technology. It's in Indore, India. And these are about 14 of the students that went through the program. Jim came and taught. We took about 9 people to teach from January until June of 2012. Glenn came and taught. We had an absolutely wonderful time with these students. Really, really went well, and so now we're working in 2 different cities, Indore and Bhopal, and this year we'll have about 55 total students that we'll go through. We have more opportunities than we can respond to, and I am absolutely having a blast. I'm having so much fun, and the word I use is convergence. I feel like God converged everything together at this point in time for Pat and myself, David, Jim, and others to be a team that works together in the context of working with young people in India. It has its challenges. The worst part is the airplane ride, which is about 18 hours. If I could avoid that, I would do it instantly. I try to muddle through airplanes. So anyway, so it's 3 careers, and I feel like all of that has kind of come together at this point in time. Okay, that's a little bit of background. What I'd like to do is talk about leadership. What I did at the ripe old age of 60 is went back to graduate school at Fuller Seminary and did a master's in leadership development. I felt like that was part of what God was calling me to do, is to identify core characteristics of leaders and invest a lot in young emerging leaders also. So I did that 4 or 5 years ago. So I'd really like to talk about one big idea, that leaders develop people to their full potential. Short story, about 3 years ago, I was mentoring a guy. He was about 30. He was working for a company in Seattle. And as he worked for this company, he was really kind of underemployed. But his boss didn't realize all the potential and capacity that this guy had. And he was longing to be developed. But his boss just didn't really see the potential that he had. Eventually, I encouraged him to really move on because he kind of hit the ceiling in the company. He's got a new job now. He's really thriving in the new place that he's in. And I think one of our responsibilities in developing leaders is to develop people completely to their full potential. What I'd like to do now is reference a nice, big, thick book. John, have you read The Leadership Challenge?
Not yet.
Okay. You're going to take it today, right?
Possibly.
Kuznis and Posner teach leadership in Santa Clara down in Southern California. This has been around for about 30 years or so. These guys teach leadership cross-culturally on 6 different continents. They've been administering a test to people to assess what are the characteristics that people look for to admire leaders and to follow leaders. So what they did is they came up with a list that you see right here. There's about 20 characteristics that people look for. There may be some on there that you think should be that aren't there. What I'd like you to do is take a piece of paper that you've got in front of you, turn it over, take a look at this list. You can only pick 4 characteristics. Pick the 4 that you think are the most essential for qualities that you look for in following a leader. Okay?
So is this worldwide qualities?
This is worldwide, cross-cultural.
Okay.
It's been done 4 times, and the results are here in the book. And in the book, they talk about different cultures, including Japan, is in here also, to compare it cross-culturally. So yeah, it's worldwide. Okay, take a few minutes and jot down some notes. Made your list of 4.
Courageous.
Courageous. Courageous? Interesting. How many had courageous down? Ooh, that's, gosh, tallied these votes. Interesting. Okay. What else besides courageous?
Mature.
Mature. How many had mature?
I had self-control, which is outside.
Okay, and self-control. Self-control, mature self-control, about 3, all right. What else? besides-
Loyal.
Pardon?
Loyal.
Loyal. Anybody else have loyal? Is that loyal? Okay.
Honest. I'm loyal.
Honest? How many had honesty? Made your top 4. Okay.
Dependable.
Dependable. Any other dependables? No pun intended. David, you didn't get that?
I did.
Inspiring. Yeah.
Inspiring.
Inspiring?
Yeah.
How many else had inspiring?
Yeah, perspiring.
I think courageous. What was that?
I put down perspiring. I'm sorry.
Perspiring? Yes.
You would do that.
I knew you would end the list, John. Why am I not surprised?
Paul said caring.
Awfully small type, John.
Gary, I know, it is, you're right.
Thought it said
Forward-looking.
Lorraine?
Forward-looking.
Yeah, another question on that forward-looking, does that mean, I mean, if a leader doesn't have a vision, know where he's going, you gotta have that. Is that what forward-looking
Yeah.
means?
Basically, I would say
Yeah.
so.
Using that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
If you're a visionary, you have a forward-looking vision.
Yeah, I had that one.
Okay.
Supportive.
Supportive. Good. All right.
Put imaginative.
More imaginative.
Scratch off the list there, Jeff.
I almost had it, Jeff.
It was close, it was close, Jeff.
It was too Disney.
Well, you know,
Here's what happened. The same 4 characteristics, honesty, forward-looking, inspiring, and competent, excuse me, have shown up in 87, 95, 2002, and 2007. Honesty started at 83, and it's gone up to 89, last time it was done. Forward-looking from 62 to 71, inspiring 58 to 69, competent 67 to 68. Those top 4 have shown up all 4 times and across all different cultures on 6 different continents. Why do you think these 4 keep showing up so consistently across cultures?
There's a lack of them, maybe, in all cultures.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good point.
You see so much failure from the opposite of those, and those emerge.
No, that's good, Kelly. Yes. Yeah, Gary?
Why do you think there's a propensity for those to increase over that span of time?
That's a good question, especially honesty and forward-looking on it quite a bit too. didn't it? Those 2 increased the most, didn't they? So why did honesty and forward-looking increase in the last 20 years? What's going on in the world? Any corruption?
Yeah.
Huh?
Technological changes.
Less of both. There's been less of both. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah.
John, could you just like take
Kelsey? Does that do it?
To Michael's point, I think one of the biggest challenges facing leaders today is the forward-looking part, given all of the changes in technology, the changes in business environment, the changes in political constructs. Those make it extremely hard for people to see forward beyond near term. And so if you find a leader who is also honest and willing to share that with you, I can see that being attractive.
Those 2 together. Yeah. Gary?
Yeah, my son works at a private university, he's a professor there. He's a very edgy guy, and he's throttled a lot by their new young president because the president doesn't want to offend donors. And I wonder in settings like that, a big problem is you have some forward-looking people who know the cutting edge, but they're throttled by backward-looking or secure people.
We've never done it that way before. Mentality. Yeah, it's a good observation. Well, what I'd like to do is pull out 3 principles, and I gave you a piece of paper that has these. And this is a summary of the book, so John, you don't need to read the book. The whole book is on this 1 page right here.
Excellent.
How many bottom line people are here? Just give me the bottom line. I don't want to read the book. That's what I thought. He talks about the 5 practices and 10 commitments of leadership. The practices are in boldface, and then the 5 characteristics have a star next to them. And then the rest of the book talk about 10 different commitments. The book is a good read, by the way. I don't want to short-sight that. So what I'd like to do is just pick out a few of them and talk about them a little bit more at length with you this morning. And the first one is inspirational leadership, inspiring people to become more than they think they can be. This happened to me when I was a junior in high school at Rainier Beach High School. Oh my goodness, how many years ago was this, sweetie? We don't need to go there, never mind.
It's a long time.
Half of a century ago.
Half a century. My 50th will be in a couple of years, that's right. Anyway.
Was it all Seattle you had school at that time?
That's good, Jeff.
During the
Jeff, you should be our MC. I had a contemporary problems teacher who viewed me differently than I viewed myself. I got dragged into his classroom during an assembly, and I was supposed to be at the assembly. I ended up in the car in the parking lot with my buddies smoking cigarettes. So we'd go to the car, we'd get way down below, we'd smoke away. Smoke would be billowing out the windows. And so you have people, you know, patrolling the parking lots when students wouldn't go to assemblies. So I got dragged into this teacher's classroom for detention. And I walked through the door, and he looked at me and he said, "Sween, what are you doing here?" And it just kind of startled me, because I hung out with the wrong crowd in high school. I did the drugs and the whole works. I didn't have my wonderful wife around this time, because she wouldn't have been hanging out with me, right?
Not really.
Not so much. And it just startled me. I thought, this guy thinks about me differently than myself. Well, I was never motivated to study. I was a goof off in school. I had to get an A in golf to bring up my GPA. If I didn't get an A, I was in deep trouble. Well, he taught history, contemporary issues, and I thought, wow, he thinks about me differently. I think I'm going to study in this class for about the first time in high school. So I got really passionate about history, contemporary issues, and he inspired me to become more than I thought I could become. But it really began with him. Unfortunately, I was never able to go back and tell him that, but he really, really impacted my life. So inspiration is a huge piece, I think, of what leaders do. This is a clip from the movie Invictus. How many have seen Invictus? Great, great movie. It's a story of Nelson Mandela's release from prison, I think, after about 27 years. He's become Prime Minister of South Africa. He's got a huge problem before him, and that is, how do you unite a country that has gone through what South Africa has gone through for so many years? So Mandela gets the captain of the soccer team, Francois, to come in for a discussion about leadership. And they have this great discussion about leadership. So watch the clip and see what they have to say about some of that story at the group that meets at Paul Reed's a couple of Tuesdays ago. It was a very powerful story. Very powerful. Thank you. Well, let me scoot on to the next one. Leaders develop competence and confidence in their people. And confidence was one that came up in the list. And my favorite story to date right now is one of our students is named Talal. So, and David knows Talal, because David has emailed endlessly with Talal. Talal just graduated as an engineer from the Malwa Institute of Technology. I saw him about 3 weeks ago. We did some videotaping. And I said, Talal, how has the International School of Entrepreneurial Leadership been helpful to you? So Talal talked about some jobs that he had, one job that didn't work out because he was working for Tata. And Tata was selling leather goods, sacred cows, leather goods. Talal was having a crisis of conscience. So Talal talked to David and Jim and Kent Lotus down in Microsoft to help him through this ethical dilemma, because we had taught ethical leadership. So he quit Tata, he went to work for Bridgestone Tires. and he is absolutely loving his job. Talal is confident, he's competent, and he's supervising 35 people. If you would have told me, David, what do you think?
Oh, gosh.
Really good kid, but he's often always in crisis.
Yeah.
And his last crisis showed up on Facebook. He met a girl on Facebook. He fell in love. They were going to get married. She had an affair. He ditched her. He was absolutely devastated. Did you get an email on that one too?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I just am so excited because I saw him 3 weeks ago and I told him, oh, you are a different person. And he just exuded confidence and competence. And so it was really exciting to see that take place.
And now he's going to start going through
Oh,
with
thank
you. Yeah.
I offered to go through a 4-week study on what Jesus has to say about success. And so we haven't done our first Skype call yet, but he said, hey, that success study you gave me when you were here last time, it's the same one we used, Paul, in our group. I would like to do that with you, but he doesn't always follow through on emails, so
Right.
I'm still waiting to get it set up with him. So very interested in spiritual things, and we've had some good conversations about spiritual things also. I wonder how I'm doing in time. I think I have time for this one, partially because it's one of my favorite ones on competence and competence. It's an older movie, Mr. Holland's Opus. Anybody not seen this movie? Not seen this movie? You should rent this movie today.
Yeah.
You got to see this movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. Mr. Holland had a vision to write a symphony. Along the way, he ended up being a high school band teacher. And then at night, he's working on his symphony, or his, I forget what it was called. So
His
opus. His opus, his magnum opus. Trying to get it done, trying to put up with kids playing instruments in high school band, kind of in and out of frustration. So he's in his office, he's playing the piano. One of his students walks in to turn in her instrument because she's just not being able to play it. So watch what he does to help her develop competence and confidence. It's really a transformation. Some of that story of the group that meets at Paul Reed's a couple of Tuesdays ago. It was a very powerful story. Very powerful. Thank you. Well, let me scoot on to the next one. Leaders develop competence and confidence in their people. And confidence was one that came up on the list. And my favorite story to date right now is one of our students is named Talal. So then David knows Talal, because David has emailed endlessly with Talal. Talal just graduated as an engineer from the Malwa Institute of Technology. I saw him about 3 weeks ago. We did some videotaping. And I said, Talal, how has the International School of Entrepreneurial Leadership been helpful to you? So Talal talked about some jobs that he had, one job that didn't work out because he was working for Tata, and Tata was selling leather goods, sacred cows, leather goods. Talal was having a crisis of conscience. So Talal talked to David and Jim and Kent Lotus down in Microsoft to help him through this ethical dilemma because we had taught ethical leadership. So he quit Tata, he went to work for Bridgestone Tires. And he is absolutely loving his job. Talal is confident, he's competent, and he's supervising 35 people. If you would have told me, David, what do you think?
Oh, gosh.
Really good kid, but he's often always in crisis.
Yeah.
And his last crisis showed up on Facebook. He met a girl on Facebook. He fell in love. They were going to get married. She had an affair. He ditched her, and he was absolutely devastated. Did you get an email on that one too?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I just am so excited because I saw him 3 weeks ago, and I told him, oh, you are a different person. And he just exuded confidence and competence. And so it was really exciting to see that take place.
And now he's going to start going through
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I offered to go through a 4-week study on what Jesus has to say about success. And so we haven't done our first Skype call yet, but he said, hey, that success study you gave me when you were here last time, it's the same one we used, Paul, in our group. I would like to do that with you, but he doesn't always follow through on emails, so
Right.
I'm still waiting to get it set up with him. So very interested in spiritual things, and we've had some good conversations about spiritual things also. I wonder how I'm doing in time. I think I have time for this one, partially because it's one of my favorite ones on competence and competence. It's an older movie, Mr. Holland's Opus. Anybody not seen this movie? Not seen this movie? You should rent this movie today.
Yeah.
You got to see this movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. Mr. Holland had a vision to write a symphony. Along the way, he ended up being a high school band teacher. And then at night, he's working on his symphony, or his, I forget what it was called. So
His
his opus, his magnum opus, trying to get it done, trying to put up with kids playing instruments in high school band, kind of in and out of frustration. So he's in his office, he's playing the piano. One of his students walks in to turn in her instrument because she's just not being able to play it. So watch what he does to help her develop competence and confidence. It's really all on you to give her a transformational breakthrough. How did he do that?
He encouraged her heart.
Encouraged her heart. What a powerful statement. That is so good. Yes. Anything else?
He asked questions to get her
Yeah.
there. Led her to that path for self-discovery.
Questions on a pathway to self-discovery. Really good, Kelly. Thank you. You look like you're ready to say something. Or are you just infatuated with looking at me? Did you take that off?
Well, no, I was thinking, because I was thinking of the 4 top things that you started with, and a lot of them were in that clip.
Good point. Yeah. Good. Excellent. Yeah.
Maybe you could expand on it, but he took a known that she knew and transferred it to an unknown.
He really did. Yeah. And what did he use to do what you said?
Her red hair.
Red hair. Yeah. And her father, the sunset. He kind of made some connections that she wasn't able to make. And she had a breakthrough as a result of not playing out of her head, but kind of out of her heart, right, Maureen? Yeah. That's huge. Paul?
And he had more faith in her than she had in herself.
Yeah.
Really good point. Very good point. Yes. Jeff?
I think he also helped her take out the rules.
Take out the rules.
It's so often I find that we have there's some sort of guidelines that we have to play by.
Yes.
There's something, and he said, take out those rules and just play.
Take out what binds you. And she got set free. The truth set you free? Okay. I'm totally out of time. The last principle is empowering leaders honestly define reality so corporate culture creates an environment of growth and affirmation. We don't get to see Gettysburg because it is too long. It's a 4-hour movie. This is a great clip where the colonel inherits a bunch of Union troops that have been deserters. And he's been given permission to shoot them. So he gets them all together, and the first thing he says is, I am not going to shoot you guys. But you know what? I desperately need you. We are going up against the Confederates, and if you don't join us, the outcome of this war is seriously in question. It is a dynamic speech. It is really, really well done. Okay. Leaders develop people to their full and complete potential. Last is just an ad for what we do for the Entrepreneurial Leadership School. Jim Johnson comes and teaches the spirit of entrepreneurship. Ron Keogh from church and myself does Unlocking Your Design. We do those 2 together. Then we talk about starting and developing a business that Glenn Reck will teach in about 4 weeks or so. Doing business in India, we get Indian business guys to come and teach this class from Hyderabad, so those 2 are taught together. David Carlson comes and teaches servant leadership and social entrepreneurship, comes and teaches ethical leadership from Microsoft. I'm still trying to get Kevin McQuiston signed up to do this. I'm still working on Paul Reed and Tim Kimmel for this one. I'm really subtle.
You are really subtle.
My laser's going to Tom Cassette too, because I need to talk to Tom. We'll do a conference to wrap things up. They develop a business plan all the way through here. They present their business plan at a conference on entrepreneurship. Thank you for letting me fill in for Glenn this morning, and we have a dynamic closer called my wife.